I think another thing that needs to be said here that's very important that I'm hearing a lot of is that the candidates come across with humility, with a sense of more of a we mentality as opposed to a me mentality. Go in and talk about what they can contribute, what they can bring to the team, as opposed to going in and saying, when do I get vacation? When do I get my first raise? Those kinds of things. So I think overall, the candidates that I see that are really the ones these days getting offers are the ones that go above and beyond, do their homework about the company, and come across with a humble attitude, with a service orientation. I think you can't lose coming across that way.
There are opportunities for our work and careers everywhere, if you know where to look. That's easier said than done, especially in our fast-paced and constantly changing world. Ann Faremouth is talking to experts, employers, and job seekers to bring you insight and understanding about what's possible. This is Career Can Do, where we're navigating the new work world.
Welcome to the Career Can Do podcast, a top global podcast dedicated to helping you navigate the new work world. My name is Chris Sandland, and I'll be the host for the episode. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Ann Faremouth, who is a multiple award-winning and nominated author, syndicated columnist, regular on the nationally syndicated Price of Business radio show, professional speaker, and CEO of a national recruiting firm. She also owns and hosts Career Can Do, a podcast on how to thrive in the post-pandemic new work world, featuring guests who are experts, employers, and job speakers from around the globe. She was recently named one of Houston's 50 most influential women and will be featured in a special edition of Forbes and Fortune magazine this month. Ann, thank you for joining.
Thank you. It's great to be here and talk with you.
How did you get into executive recruiting? What drew you to this line of work?
I think it started when I was in high school and became president of the Cosmic Club. Generally speaking, the word cosmic means profound interconnectedness, and that experience was all about how we can help others. It seemed to really resonate with me, and I always wanted to have a career that involved helping people. However, I started my career working for a Big Four automaker in more of an engineering job. And in 1982, the automotive market took a big downturn. Had some college roommates that moved to Houston and visited them, and at the time it was booming down here. I had a chance to work in the recruiting field, took it, and never looked back.
In a sea of recruiters, what makes Faremouth & Company stand out?
Good question. I believe I'm more of what you call a holistic recruiter. The definition of holistic is characterized by the belief that the parts of something are interconnected and can be explained only by reference to the whole. I think that's how I'm different, in that I don't just look at a resume and a job order and slap them together. I try to find out who the candidate is, what the company's all about, and look beyond the resume and job order. In other words, I try to understand who the candidate is and what they are all about and match them to a company that is in alignment with them.
What does a typical search process look like from your side? Say a candidate's ready to enter the job market. What is the order of operations that you guys will typically take when engaging with a candidate?
Interesting question. I'm not sure there's any real typical search processes these days, as so much in the new work world, as I call it, has changed. But I do truly try to understand the company that wants to hire, understand what's important to them, and what are the skill sets necessary to be successful in the job. What qualities do the outstanding employees that they currently have working there possess to be able to know how to recruit for the job? And once I start the recruiting process, I begin my research to try to recruit the right candidates. And when I find ones that seem to match, I dig deep into why they are looking for a new position and ask many questions to assess their background to determine if they might be a good fit for my client.
Ann, I would imagine that with almost 40 years of experience cultivating candidates, you probably have a good process in place, but I would imagine your reputation in the industry, people really truly see you as an expert, and a lot of times will seek you out over and above sort of the traditional ways of finding a job. Tell us about your Rolodex of candidates, so to speak, and how powerful your network is and why it would make sense for companies to consider using recruiters rather than just sourcing candidates online.
Well, that's a really good question. And I think it's very, very pertinent these days. I think I belong to a lot of professional organizations and do a lot of networking. And that gets me candidates that I get a reference with. And I also am on a lot of boards of national organizations. I also do a lot with the colleges, with the different career fairs. I'm on different committees and I speak at these different colleges. So I'm able to get candidates probably in a different way than most recruiters do. And I think when I get these referrals from this networking that I do, from these associations that I belong to, I think I have a little bit of an advantage in that I really get a recommendation on what they're all about, what they're good at, what they're not, what they've done, where they should land. And so I spend a lot of time being involved in these organizations, but I really enjoy it and I learn a lot about so many things. I learn a lot about the candidates, but not only that, I learn a lot about prospective customers that want to hire. And so I think when we are involved in people, involved in organizations and groups, that gives one an advantage, not only in our professional arena, but also in our personal arena as well.
What I'm hearing is I think recruiters and specifically Fairmouth and Company, what the value the firm provides is the human element, right? Today, so much of the business in the world is all done online with technology. Job boards are using artificial intelligence to perform screening of candidates. And while, those tools are very powerful and can be effective, sometimes what a person's capabilities or interests or passions, it's hard to pick up words on a page, and algorithms are not totally adept at being able to glean that information. And so a recruiter who has, many decades of experience, contacts, understands the human element of a person and why they would be a really good fit at another company, which is also comprised of obviously other people and other humans. And so that's why I think recruiting still holds a wonderful stronghold in the market, because submitting your resume online in a sea of other resumes, for a candidate's perspective, it can sometimes be hard to stand out. If you're not using just the right words or just the right grammar, sometimes even if you're the most qualified candidate of the bunch, you may not stick out, or sometimes the algorithms may even inappropriately exclude you from contention. And that's where a recruiter who has deep understanding of their candidates, deep understanding of their clients' needs, of their business, can sort of provide even greater value than a computer or an algorithm, and which is why I think recruiters, and especially a firm like Fairmouth and Company, can be so successful.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Chris. I think you really did. I think that AI can help us become more efficient in the process. But I think at the end of the day, we need that human element to really be successful. And the other thing is, I think a lot of times candidates are most successful, yes, when they have the background, yes, when they have the experience, yes, when they have the tenure, but also when they have the culture fit that is in line with the company. For example, I've placed many people in the oil and gas industry. A lot of these people, are salespeople. And a lot of the people that I have companies or clients with that give me jobs they love to hunt. They love to fish. All right. If we put somebody that likes to go to the opera or the theater, maybe the customers wouldn't be as receptive to those people. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the algorithms, as you've mentioned, can't assess those kinds of things, where the human element, a person involved in that, can. So I think you nailed it. And I think what you're saying is exactly right. And I'm proud that I do have that ability, and that I'm so grateful and blessed to be involved in so many associations and organizations where I can utilize that human element.
You've obviously interviewed, hundreds and probably at this point, thousands, many thousands of candidates over the years. What are some of the top traits or qualities that you have consistently seen in the top performers?
The qualities that always seem to win out are the qualities that demonstrate that candidate goes the extra mile. For example, I sent a candidate not long ago on an interview, and before he went, he really did his homework. He really did his research. He knew who the company was, who they sold to, what the application of their products was. And he put together a 30, 60, 90-day presentation on his first interview. And the manager was so blown away and so impressed with that. And also, I think another thing that needs to be said here that's very important that I'm hearing a lot of is that the candidates come across with humility, with a sense of more of a we mentality as opposed to a me mentality. Go in and talk about what they can contribute, what they can bring to the team, as opposed to going in and saying, when do I get vacation? When do I get my first raise? Those kinds of things. So I think overall, the candidates that I see that are really the ones these days getting offers are the ones that go above and beyond, do their homework about the company, and come across with a humble attitude, with a service orientation. I think you can't lose coming across that way.
When you identify a candidate who's a really good fit for a job and clients are hesitant to hire, do you have any examples of where that hesitation or that delay has caused clients to miss out on opportunities, or anytime you've ever seen it actually be detrimental to a company to not move swiftly during the hiring process?
Yes, I have. I have. I was at a conference not long ago, and I was talking to a customer, and we had sent some good candidates, but the ones we sent didn't have exact background. Not every I was dotted, not every T was crossed. And the client told me, Marianne, I wish I would have hired that John Doe because my competitor ended up getting a big order that we could have gotten if we would have had somebody in place. So I think the real cost of not hiring is loss of business, is losing a job to your, or losing business to your competitor. And I think, Chris, this brings up another subject, and that is, I think we need to look beyond only the resume with the skill set that we're looking for. For example, I have been so successful and heard so many good comments from clients on people that I've placed that have been in sports, that have been captains of teams, that have, been quarterbacks. For some reason, there seems to be a real transference of success when we see that what they've accomplished in sports, and we talk about that on the interview, and what they're going to do when they come in the job. So I think there's a lot of changes right now, yes. But I also think we need maybe to use a different lens when we're looking at candidates and interview in a way that tells us a lot more than just what the resume demonstrates. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you definitely want people in your organization that are multidimensional, right? We talk a lot about having, people from all different walks of life makes for a much better overall organization. You make better decisions, you have more perspective. And so for those people that engage in sports or activities or extracurriculars or volunteer or do those types of things outside of just work day in and day out, tend to have a much better background. They're more well-rounded. They provide more value to organizations. And it seems to be a much more powerful formula than somebody who maybe is just singularly focused on work or singularly focused on personal things. If you have multiple dimensions to you, you seem to bring a lot more value to both an organization and to the community at large.
I think you said it very well. Yes, I think and more now also, Chris, with the talent shortage. I mean, we have an unprecedented talent shortage that we've never had before. So I think we really do need that new lens. And we do need to look outside the box when we're hiring, because post-COVID, we had all these jobs open up and not enough people. So the applicants are in the driver's seat. If we stick to the old ways of hiring, in a lot of ways, clients and companies are going to be hurt by that. So I think, yes, we want to look at skill set and all of those traditional things we have looked at in the past, but let's look beyond that and see if there's other ways we can screen to try to ensure we get a good candidate for our jobs.
Absolutely. Mariana, we alluded to at the beginning of this podcast that you are quite the busy woman. I mean, you write articles for the U.S. Daily Post and Times. You host this global podcast. You speak at industry conferences. You're on the board of many organizations. You speak at colleges around the community. And plus, I mean, on top of that, you're the CEO and president of your recruiting firm. So why do you do all of those things? And what have you seen happen with your engagement in all those other activities? And how has that contributed to your success as a recruiter?
Well, I love doing all that. I love people. I love working with people. I love learning. And I think that when you're involved in outside activities, as I am, I think you have a different perspective. And I think you continue to learn and grow. And I also think networking is really great. I remember one time, I have to share this. I was a member of Toastmasters, and I was just a member for 6 months. And I was in this great club. It was an old club of a major organization that had closed down, but the people kept going. And the president of many years was moving to another city because he got a different job. And one of the senior members of the club came up to me and said, I can think you can take that job as president. I said, what? I've only been a member for 6 months. He said, I'll help you. I'll help you. You can do this. And I did it. And he did help me. And in some ways, because he believed in me, I believed more in myself. So being a member of all these different organizations, I think helps us grow, helps us overcome challenges, helps us become the best version of ourselves. So I think, Chris, the more we can do, the more we can get out there and work with others, be involved in different things. This makes us a more interesting person too. And I think it's fun. So it's not work for me. I enjoy it. And that's why I do it.
If a candidate's considering getting back into the job market, or just they're a business professional looking to upskill themselves or perhaps make a move in their career, are there resources, books, podcasts that you recommend that candidates or even leaders in organizations use to help them on that journey?
Well, this is kind of funny, being a businesswoman, I'm certainly going to recommend my 3 books. I've written 3 books. The first book, Revolutionary Recruiting, is exactly for someone that's trying to get back in the job market. Revolutionary Reinvention is about transferring your skills. I wrote that book during COVID when so many people were losing their jobs. And then Revolutionary Results is my 3rd book that just came out last year, and that's about life lessons. So if you're thinking about getting out there, I think you need to do your homework, investigate, read, learn how you can become your best self. And I think reading and picking up books, and the other book I think that's amazing that I would certainly recommend is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That's all about relationships. And I think whatever we do in life, in most cases, is about relationships. So the more we can become proficient at those, the better we can become and the more successful we can be.
Marion, it's been a lot of fun getting to turn the tables and interviewing the host for a change. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge and wisdom about recruiting and about the work world and things beyond. How can people get a hold of you? How can people find you?
Well, my website, you can go to my website, faremouth.com, or you can give us a call. All of that information is on the website, and we certainly will help you any way we can. But as I said, I think the best place to find out about what we do and who I am is to go to our website, faremouth.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And that wraps up another great episode of the Career Can Do podcast. See you on the next one.
Thank you so much.
We thank you for tuning in to our Career Can Do podcast. We make no guarantees on results for your particular quest, but we hope you enjoy the information presented. The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely that of the guest or speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Ann Faremouth and Faremouth Company. Thank you.